What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be changing the oil on a 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited. This has the 3.6 liter V6 engine in there, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so what you're going to need for this job is really quite simple. What you're going to need is a ratchet, of course. You're going to need an extension that's going to be for the oil filter, along with a 24 millimeter socket for the oil filter itself. You're going to need either a 10 millimeter socket or a T27 Torx with a impact drill in order to take off the cover. You're also going to need a 13 for the oil drain plug. You're obviously going to need the oil filter itself, and that's the part number that you're going to be looking for if you're getting a mobile one. And you're going to need some 0W20 oil. In this case, I'm using the Mobile One Advanced Fuel Economy, and you're going to need 6 quarts of this if you're changing out the oil with the filter itself, which I don't know why you do it any other way. I always change out the filters anytime I'm doing an oil change, but 6 quarts if you're doing an oil change with a filter. So that should be all that we need. Anything else comes up, then we'll of course go over that as it goes. All right, so here what you're going to want to do is just go ahead and remove this little cover here. And then to go ahead and get this entire cover off, what we're going to do is go ahead and remove. There is a bolt here with a T27 Torx Bit there. Otherwise, you can just use a socket. Take that off so that we can pop these off of the grommets that it's on. Now, once you've got that popped off, take that screw, put it aside somewhere where you're not going to lose it. And then you can just simply pull up on this cover like so and get it out of the way. Now, the reason why we did that, of course, is to get to that oil filter cap that's right down there. We obviously need to take that off in order to get access to it. All right, and so once you've got the car lifted up, which in my case, again, just using some ramps, we're going to go ahead and get underneath the car down there, where I'll show you where we're going to go ahead and drain the oil. All right, so now once you get about 4 feet underneath the vehicle, you're going to find this, which is the oil pan itself, along with the drain plug for the oil too. So for that, what you're going to need is a 13 millimeter socket. And we're going to go ahead and unscrew that and then get ready to start draining. So obviously have your oil pan ready. I'm going to start by breaking this loose. And you're going to do that by going counterclockwise. And then once you've broken it, you can go ahead and just get ready with the pan and just unscrew it by hand. Now, this car was just recently driven, so if you just drove this car for a decent amount of time, you're going to want to make sure you wait a little bit or just be very careful with this because this oil can be hot. And there we go. So we're going to go ahead and just let that drain out. These cars are supposed to take somewhere in the neighborhood of about 6 quarts, so this could take a little bit. Plus, you want to let it just go ahead and drain out completely before we seal this up. Now, while that's happening, we're going to go ahead and clean up our hands as well as this drain plug. Okay, so just a quick note too. As it's still draining just like that, I want you to be patient and keep letting that drain. You want to get as much of that oil out as possible. You obviously never get all of it out, but even a slow dribble like this, we want to keep waiting. Okay, so now that we're at this point here where it's just a slow dribble, we can go ahead and do a couple things. First thing that we're going to do is go ahead and start by wiping this off. And then quickly just insert that drain plug. You're still going to get some drippage. That's okay because you're going to wipe it off here in just a second. Once you close that off. So even just finger tight, it should stop dripping. And then just make sure you wipe this off nicely. And then we're going to go ahead and tighten this down. So move your oil drain pan out of the way. Get your 13 millimeter back out on the socket. And then you can torque this if you'd like. For me, it's hand tight and a little bit more. And so that should be good. I'll link the torque specs in the description of the video if you want to go ahead and torque it. But that is good enough for me. All right, so now that we're done down here, we're going to go back up to the top side and work on that oil filter. Okay, so now once you're up here, right here is where you've got the oil filter housing. And as you can see, you've got your air intake tube right here, which can make for kind of an awkward approach angle. And depending on the type of socket that you have, if you don't have one of these low profile ones, this can be potentially tricky. Even with this one, as you can see, my extension is basically, rubbing right up against that tube. So this can be tricky. So just kind of you might have to use one of those angle attachments for the ratchet. But in this case, it's going to work fine just with the one that I have. So obviously, once you're here, you're going to turn counterclockwise and just start spinning that out. Now, this can get messy, so fair warning. While I like the design of how this is at the top, they kind of made it, kind of annoying to get to in a sense, and it is going to be a bit difficult to keep everything clean, but we'll do our best. Okay, so once you've got that all screwed out, I'd recommend having a paper towel ready to go. And just pull it right out and right into the paper towel. Okay, so once you've got the filter housing out, you're going to go ahead and just pull on this old filter like so. And there's that mess I was talking about. And then here you also, of course, have a rubber gasket, which you're going to want to just take a pick tool or like a flathead screwdriver and just take that off. Then, of course, you get your new filter ready, as well as your new O-ring, and just stick your finger inside. So just grab some oil from the old filter, a little bit on your fingers, and just kind of get the new O-ring lubed up. And then you just go ahead and get it right on to the oil filter housing, right back in the space where the old one was. And so, just in case your old one was in the wrong spot, there's going to be a groove that you can see down here. It's not the one. Right above that, though, is where you want that to be, like so. Then get your new oil filter and just put it right in, and you shouldn't be able to pull it out with just light force, so that you know that it's good to go. And so from here, we're just going to go ahead and reinstall this right back. All right, and so obviously, just like you took it out, you're going to go ahead and put it right back in. Just kind of go with your fingers first. Make sure you catch thread so that you don't cross thread this, and then you'll come back in with the ratchet. So once you start feeling the pressure that it's getting to the end, same thing, this will have torque specs, but I'm going to just go about tight and then a little bit further, and then I'll know it's good. Okay, so now once you've got the oil drained, you've got the drain plug put back in, you've got the oil filter changed out, you are ready to go ahead and start adding oil. So this is, again, a full 6 quarts, which is pretty convenient because these usually come in 5 and 1 quart sizes. So you can go ahead and just pour this whole thing in. All right, so that was a full 5 quarts. So now we're going to come in with this one last quart. And again, full bottle. All right, so now that we've gone ahead and filled this up with oil, what we're going to do now is just get this closed up, obviously. And we're going to leave the engine uncovered for right now, because what we want to do now is just make sure that we could turn the car on, let it run for a bit, and make sure that we don't see any sort of oil leaking from that filter itself, and we'll take a look at the drain plug as well. So we'll leave that off for right now up until the end when we're pretty sure that we're in the clear, and then we'll go ahead and reinstall that cover back on. All right, so since I'm not seeing any oil leaking here, nor am I seeing any oil leaking from down there, we're going to go ahead and call this good and get that cover put back on. All right, so just kind of take a quick inventory of where these grommets are going to go. You've got this nub here, that one, there's one back there, and there's one right there by the oil dipstick. You want to kind of just push this to the back, kind of tilt it up so that you can see where that back left one is going to go. Make sure you get it, along with that back right one. And then once you've got those two pretty much in place, you should be spot on for the front two. Just give them kind of a tap in the front as well as in the back. Just give it a little tug and make sure that it's not coming up. And then don't forget to reinstall this center bolt, which if you align those grommets correctly, this should only go in one way. And then you don't want to go too tight on that. Just ever so snug. And then of course, don't forget that center cover. All right, so once you've got the car on a level ground, what you're gonna do is go ahead and take the dipstick out, wipe it off from the engine running itself. You don't want to take a reading right away. You want to go ahead and take it out, wipe it off, stick it back in, and then take it out again, and then get your reading. And so as you can kind of see there, you know, it's right at that maximum mark, if not a little bit over, which again, this is why you want to make sure that you drain all that oil out, because this is exactly the 6 quarts that it called for that we poured in. And of course, it's right at that maximum mark. So we're not going to take any of the oil out of there to kind of account for that. We're going to leave it as it is. It should be just fine. But again, this is why you want to make sure that you are draining all that oil out as much as you possibly can. Okay, so to go ahead and reset that oil life indicator, you're going to, on the left side of the steering wheel here, navigate over to this little vehicle on the left side. And then obviously it says hold OK to reset the oil life. But the car has to be off while you're doing this, as well as on run there. So that should be just pressing that engine start stop button twice with your foot off the brake. It's obviously easy enough. We're just going to go ahead and hold OK. And just like that, we're back to 100% oil life. All right, but that is a wrap for this oil change. Again, this is a 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee with the 3.6 liter V6 in here. That's how you do the oil change for it. Let me know if this video was helpful. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you guys want to see other cars, and I'll see you in the next one.